Hello Aries, this is a timeless reading for you. I'm using my own cards, my medieval oracle deck. So in the middle of your spread we have the fairy. I'm gonna get into the meaning of the fairy card soon. The fairy is surrounded by the sword, the horse, the jester, and the document or the letter. With the fairy, this is someone who can be ambivalent, not necessarily in a bad way, like shifting between good and bad. I mean, this can be a very kind spirit, a very gentle-hearted person, but often the fairy is a bit hard to grasp, hard to hold on to, because she switches between several dimensions. She's a bit fluctual, maybe sometimes a little bit irreliable. Not because she has bad intentions, but, she's just from another world somehow. If she comes up in a very good way, she has healing qualities. She knows things that other people don't know. She sees the good in people, yet some of her negative qualities can be, as I said already, that she can be irreliable, not very grounded, also clumsy, like she can also be someone who forgets a lot of things because she's distracted, like someone who's not very focused because she's just traveling through another world as well, and then she's not very grounded. So this can be quite annoying, and I have a feeling that she comes up in your reading a little bit in this negative way, like some kind of naive person who's a bit of a flying monkey. I don't feel that this card represents you or your energy. I feel like this is someone who could at the moment be going on your nerves a bit. I don't feel like a strong beef you're having with this person, or it could be for a few of you, but for most of you it is just some kind of annoyance. I also don't feel like you hate this person or the other way around. I think this person is even smiling at you. They feel very benevolent about themselves, thinking they are so good, but I feel like there is something about a situation regarding a person or several people around you in your family or friend circle or even at work. There is something toxic going on. The weird thing is that this toxic person that I'm feeling around you, it is not showing up as a card in your reading. Yet there are two people showing up, like the fairy and the jester, and they both can be very good cards. They can be very good people, but they both come a little bit in a negative way in your spread. Like the jester, usually jesters in the Middle Ages, they were quite educated, intelligent. They had a political role to play. But in your reading, I just see the jester as a clown, like someone who's not taking things seriously in a bad way. We can also be less serious about life in a mature way, in a wise way, but this is not what I mean right now. Like, both of them are some kind of flying monkeys. That's what I'm seeing. Like, and they are looking at you like, we love you, we still love you, even if you're angry at this person right now and you're the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, somehow there is someone around who might even be abusive in some way towards you, and they might be your friends or someone you thought you could trust, and you try to tell them, but they don't want to see it, and they just look at you with these kind eyes like, oh my God, I think you're exaggerating a little bit, just calm down. And then you don't feel taken you don't feel like they taking you seriously, sorry. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is quite annoying, or, you know, a little bit more than just annoying to you at the moment. And I want to jump into the horse card now. You know, the horse in my deck, in my medieval oracle cards, stands for either friendship or for cars, vehicles, because, you know, in the Middle Ages they didn't have cars, so the horse was their car somehow. And the horse also, I think, had to be some kind of their friend or best friend. Nowadays we say the dog is the best friend of the human being, but maybe in the Middle Ages it was the horse. So that was some kind of my idea when I created this card. And of course, it can also sometimes just show up in a different way. Like in one of my recent readings, it came up as, you know, something that is grounding, like some kind of connection to the earth. It just came up suddenly like that. So we don't always have to go by very strict rules when we're reading cards, and also just let our intuition speak to us. And I feel like this horse has two meanings for you. On one hand, this is some kind of negative friendship. As I said, they are not ultimately evil, but you might reflect upon your friendship to these two people. The horse could even represent a third person. You might even start to doubt your whole squad or whatever, or family. I can just feel that this is regarding several people, and you might think about these things very heavily at the moment. This person also, just like recently, reminds me of like just being grounded again, like bringing you back to reality. This is what this horse is telling me, like you have to become a reliable friend to yourself and stay true to yourself, even if that does mean that you have to withdraw yourself from this group of people. And sometimes, you know, if this is about some friend circle, sometimes we don't have a lot of other friends, and then we are afraid we will be lonely when we leave those friends. But this is actually what the horse is telling me, that you have to become your best friend somehow. You have to be willing to see something that maybe is painful to see, painful to admit to yourself. I mean, the horse can also just be a metaphor as well, as a third meaning of, you know, riding away from this situation. In the unconscious position, we have the sword, and the sword mostly comes up in my readings. You know, I painted it in this Excalibur style, like it represents some kind of destiny or individuality, and I feel like this is this task, maybe this is some kind of destiny. You know, when we mention this word destiny, people always expect something huge, something great, and something very, very positive, like, oh, this is my great destiny. But sometimes our destiny can also be a little bit uncomfortable, because it is just on our path that we want to learn something about someone. Maybe you already knew these people in your past lives, and you were in a similar situation, and then you didn't learn your lesson that you have to withdraw. Or they were even your enemies, you know, something like that. I mean, they seem to be people who enjoy you not being well, but in a very twisted and indirect way, because they are not like actively, directly abusing you, but they seem to support someone in a certain way who is doing that to you, which is also, you know, like a passive kind of betrayal. And I feel like this could be just a part of your life, that your higher self or whatever, you know, I don't always like using these terms, but you know what I mean. Your soul, or I don't know, your spirit guides, all these typical terms. You just put in whatever you want, like that this is planned for you, that you had to learn this lesson. And with the letter card, I mean, just for a few of you, it could mean that you will send them this message on an electronic way or with a old school letter written on paper, or you just will tell them verbally, or the other way around, maybe they will try to contact you. It could even be that someone is bringing up some old messages from the past, maybe between you and the person that is not showing up here in your cards, but that I'm just feeling somewhere around you. Or maybe, even these flying monkeys might find out some information about this person and they didn't believe you previously, but then they find something out as well. But I'm not seeing how they will react then, because all I'm feeling and seeing here is like they feel so good about themselves. Like they are such nice people and they just love everyone, and they just can't see how dangerously someone is behaving towards you. And that's not a nice feeling. This letter card also, that was actually the very first thing that I was getting from this card, is that it's just a metaphor for what I already talked about, like some information that you have to learn. It's not an information that necessarily has to come from the outside in form of a literal letter or message. It can just be, a spiritual kind of inner message that you're receiving about this whole situation. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Magician card. And I feel like this is just a confirmation, because the Magician, when I created this card, I also thought of the Magician as an ambivalent person. Someone who can be very good-hearted, very, they have a lot of, and I'm not, speaking of a magician in this circus sense, like who has some tricks. When I created this card, I thought of a real kind of magician who has like true spiritual gifts. But, these people, some people energetically want to steal these gifts. And then they, infiltrate the magician to misuse his gift. And then he becomes a little bit not so good anymore. He can also come up in a very good way, just as someone who has powers and someone who is dealing with them well, who's using them in a good way. But he can also come up in an utterly negative way, like just, the magician can be a metaphor for utter manipulation. And I feel like this is, this card could be representing the person that I just earlier said doesn't really show up in your spread, but I feel their presence around you. And I feel their presence in this spread here. So this could be the Magician. Or what I'm also seeing in the Magician card is that this is just another person around you who is not utterly bad, but they are ambivalent as well. They are actually a good person, but they are being manipulated by this dark person around you. So they become very entangled with this darkness, and it's very hard for them to, disentangle that, to withdraw from that. A third way I'm seeing this Magician card is not as a literal person coming up here, but just as a representation, as a metaphor for this whole topic here, that is, this kind of ambivalence just. There's just something good that's being tainted by something not good, by something dark or evil, whatever we want to call it. But don't worry, I know it sounds a little bit terrible, this reading, so just let me point that out. There is a relief to this situation. There is, by understanding it and by, getting into this horse energy, being ready to ride away with strong legs, with 4 legs even, There is some kind of self-confidence that I'm feeling here on your side. Some kind of revelation that will just free you in a certain way. So I'm gonna leave it here. Thank you for watching.